Hey everyone, and welcome to 121 in Flux. I am Peter, and I'm joined as always by Connor.
Yes, you are.
This is our movie podcast, which has been a little off and on recently. We did do A Night to Remember last time, and we are back now to do Shoplifters, which is much like A Night to Remember, is also a Patreon vote winner. And this was voted for a few months ago. I can't remember which month. I can't remember what it beat. But this one,
but it won, and that's what matters.
It won. This is a Japanese film from last year. It was getting a lot of buzz, a lot of award buzz, a lot of
yeah.
So, we are here to talk about it. It is a drama about a makeshift family in Japan, living in poverty. They're not actually related by blood, but they all live together. And of course, a couple of them do shoplift, hence the title of the film. And it's about them essentially adopting, and I use that word loosely, a young girl who is kind of left outside while her parents are fighting and being neglectful of her, and they kind of take her in, feed her, train her, kind of take her as one of their own, and ultimately the hiding of that and how they maybe eventually get kind of caught is essentially what the movie is. So that is the gist of it. So we'll start spoiler free as we always do, and we'll dive right in. So, Cara, did you enjoy Shoplifters?
I did. Maybe not as much as some of the people had hyped it up towards the end of last year. I think it's very good. I think I had a few pacing issues here or there that kind of held it back from being, amazing.
So you think the 2-hour runtime is probably just a touch?
Yeah, not like significantly. Maybe just chop off like 10 or 15 minutes is all.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. No, I also thought it was good. I think it's one of those quieter movies that is because there's very little music in this. Like, there's like maybe a couple of scenes in the whole thing that has any type of music. It's mostly very down to earth kind of character beats, character scenes, and basically its biggest strength is just how well performed and written the characters are. They come across as very likable and sympathetic, despite the fact that they're not necessarily always great people. And even when, obviously there's maybe some because there's the general idea of them. Okay, they're kind of like just sort of scraping by in kind of, nefarious ways. They're shoplifting. They're kind of living with this old woman who's, like, who herself does turn out to also be kind of a scammer in her own way. But, like, they all have this kind of thing. And there's more extreme things that go later on. But there's just always this sense of, like, I mean, you almost feel bad for them. They're living like this. But at the same time, they're kind of at fault themselves. They kind of they put themselves in this position by the way they are.
It is, but there is a key distinction in that. I think it's the son asked at one point, is what we're doing wrong? And there's like, well, as long as the store doesn't go out of business, we're not really hurting anyone.
Yes, and the way he writes that off though is like, that's not quite right.
But he's kind of like, But the idea is, well, they don't actually want to. To hurt any of the local businesses or anything like that. They just they want enough to get by and kind of be comfortable enough, but they're not like being extravagant either.
Sure, but like what they're doing is always wrong, and
it is. Yeah,
the characters are very likable in spite of that fact. They come across as very like, I don't know, just very well spirited. They come across as very like, you're kind of rooting for them, even though what they're doing and how they're doing it is wrong. Even though that by all rights they don't deserve any of the happiness that they're kind of gleaming. But at the same time, they're kind of you kind of do feel happy for them when they have a happy day or a happy moment. Or
I think ultimately they feel like good people who just happen to do some shoplifting, and some other things. But they feel like good people looking out for each other rather than just trying to get rich and rob from anyone.
Well, the whole theme of the movie is the idea of like family that you sort of pick and make, rather as opposed to actually your literal by blood family. The whole thing's very much about the idea of choosing your makeshift family, and is that more important than just because you're related to someone by blood? And I've always been kind of of the belief that that's kind of true. If you find people who you can kind of form a family with, and the fact that you're not related by blood really doesn't matter all that much.
It always seems weird to me that people are find this strange as a concept, given that the entirety of, like, married life is, hey, I like you, let's make a family.
Yeah, there's an element of that in all families to an extent, yeah.
Yeah.
But of course, the big thing here is that, these aren't their kids. These are just two random kids that they've found at somewhere.
It's kind of an extension of that, isn't it?
Yeah. So no, actually, if anything, there was a line later on in the movie from one of the cops that really kind of made me squint at the screen a little bit, because I was like, because obviously, as much as we're kind of on the side of the most of the characters in the family, and I say family again, not literal family, but obviously some of the things they do go too far, and we expect them to get to sort of meet the end of at least their status quo because of that. But there's a line from someone towards the end who says, "You can't be a mother unless you give birth," and immediately I just sort of went, well, that's just kind of throwing everyone who's ever adopted a kid under the bus a little bit, and like, that's been a little insensitive. Forget the fact that I disagree with that statement. Just, that's like, hey, this is not, because I never got the impression in the movie that it wants us to villainize the police or the system or anything like that.
No, I don't think it does. I think it's more just like, this person as an individual feels that way, but you're not supposed to agree with him.
Yes, but it's just weird because the woman says this, and it just kind of, it was like, whoa, what? Like, yeah. that's just throwing everything under the bus a little bit. But so that kind of stuck out to me. But the the family's made up of kind of, quote unquote, the dad, who's Osamu, and he is the sort of the main shoplifter who's taught the young boy, who's Shota.
Yeah, so he's the professional shoplifter, and the others are all kind of learning the trade.
Well, not all the others, just the kids.
The younger ones.
Yeah, the others don't do any of it. But Shota's they have kind of a father-son bond. But as we sort of discover throughout the course, because I think at the start of the movie you kind of assume they are father-son. It's not until it kind of starts to, there's little lines of dialogue here or there.
It's when the kid makes a point of not calling him dad at any point. Yeah,
but even when he says, "You should call me dad," there's almost like a leap of logic where you kind of go, "Oh, is he like a new stepdad?" And that's why it's a thing. That's why it's an awkward thing for him to call him dad, is because his mum remarried or whatever. Obviously it's not that in this case, but that was what my main jump to until it started revealing more and more and more. And then of course you have the sort of the teenager Aki, who works as a hostess. That's what it says on Wikipedia anyway. I would say it's more of a peep show joint, but I mean,
yeah, I feel like they're being generous there.
It might just be a translation thing. Maybe that's just that's literally what it might be called in Japan.
Yeah, could well be.
But so she's there, and then we have kind of the mum of the family, Nobuo, if I'm saying that remotely right, and she works at like a laundrette or whatever it is, maybe like a hotel. She does the laundry at a hotel, something like that, and. Yeah, so and she has a relationship with Osamu, the father figure, and then there's also the grandmother figure, whose small apartment they all live in, her small house, they all live there, and you get the impression she's the only one who's supposed to be living there, but everyone just kind of sneaks in there, and it's very tiny, and one of the things the cinematography does is it really makes you feel how cramped it is the entire time. Like whenever we're in that house, it does this thing where everyone just feels cramped up against the edge of the frame, as if the frame in itself is actually kind of,
they're all sleeping on the floor and just, wherever they can find space.
Yeah. And even once they bring in the little girl, they bring in a Yuri, like that she has to share with someone. This is how cramped for space this place is. Yeah. But that's actually one of the things that make you like them a lot, though, is that when they do take her initially, they he takes her because she's hungry and she looks cold, she's been neglected, and he basically just invites her over for food, right? He says, "Hey, why don't you come with us and we'll give you something to eat?" And when she's there, they find bruises on her. They find bruises and marks, and it's like, okay, right, so she's coming from a really rough household. Maybe and obviously the correct path at this point would be to contact the social services or the police, official channels. Yeah. Obviously, for reasons they don't want to be involved in the official channels. Because
it's we'll get more into the ins and outs of it later. But they maybe don't want that.
So and they're going to take them back. The mother figure like sort of grabs them and takes them there with the father figure, and they're about to give her over, and they're outside this girl's house, and they hear the fighting, and they he goes up and sort of peeks over this little, there's like a little sort of porch sort of balcony area, and he kind of peeks over it, and like it's just constant fighting, and they make the choice to take her back with them. They don't give her back, and I mean, and obviously, so I think the thing here is, even though this is kind of the incorrect choice, the key things that we see in these like this like, I'd say, trilogy of scenes. When he first finds her, she's there for dinner, and then the taking back to the house, is these parents don't seem to have even noticed that she's been gone. Presumably for a couple
hours.
For a couple of hours at least. So immediately we do not side with them. We side maybe more with these characters who seem to care about her, regardless of how wrong they're going about handling it. They seem to care.
They were being genuine. He was like, "Hey, come and have some food," right? Yeah, it was a nice thing. It wasn't, he wasn't being weird about it.
Yeah.
It was just like, "Hey, she's hungry. Let's bring her for dinner." And even though they don't have that much, and it's it's a small place that they've got, it's like, yeah, well, one more. Come, she's welcome.
Yeah, and that's kind of what the setup of the movie is, and from there, it's does Shota, the boy, does he get kind of jealous of another kid? Does he become more of a big brother figure? All these little kind of intricacies of it, and the morality of what they do kind of comes into play, and it's a very smart film in how it tackles things, because again, it takes this group of characters who are doing things that are 100% wrong. There's no disputing that how they handle their lives and how they go about things is completely inappropriate, downright, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a word in my head and I can't get it.
I don't want to say immoral, because
no,
not quite accurate.
When something's feeding off of something, like a parasite, what's the adjective here?
Parasitic.
Yeah, I guess. I think that's a more elegant word I had in mind, but that's essentially what I was going for. Parasitic.
There might well be, but that is a word that you can use in this search.
Yes. So, like, despite all that, I think it actually makes a lot of positive points. Even at the end of the movie, when we maybe discover some other things about them that is a bit more extreme and so on and so on, I don't think it ever wants us to completely villainize them. I think it's trying to just make some very clear points about family and about the happiness that they somehow find, despite the fact that they're in this fleeting, like, poverty-ridden lifestyle. Like, there's nothing that this should be a miserable story, but yet there's all these little moments and days of happiness.
Yeah,
and it's kind of obviously there's a happy medium somewhere, but I feel like it's actually making some positive points, and there are arcs for almost every character. Maybe the little girls, maybe the exception, but I think Shota and both the parents, all three of them go through pretty big arcs over the course of this film.
I agree. I think they're quite important, and I think the young sister is an important catalyst, and really changes all the dynamics, which is what establishes everything going on. She's less a character and kind of the MacGuffin in a lot of ways. I think it's the older sister that gets kind of the short straw for the most part. A lot of her stuff feels kind of superfluous. You could kind of cut most of that and not lose too much, I don't think.
Yeah, it doesn't really amount to a whole much. She has there's a detail about her in the plot that kind of explains some of the granny stuff, but honestly, it doesn't necessarily add a whole lot to the movie. It's
not that any of the stuff is individually bad. I think it's all fine. It's all good, and and there's no real problem while you're watching it. It's just it doesn't really can tie in with all the other stuff as well. It feels very parallel as opposed to the other three, which are mostly quite intertwined. So it feels just a little bit separate, and I always feel that when I'm watching her scenes, I always kind of go, right, okay, what's the point of this in the larger context beyond just for this character? Because I think with all the others you can do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think she's there because she unlike young Yuri, she didn't she left her kind of given family and joined this family kind of her own free will at an older age, where she's maybe a bit more coherent of the choice she's making. You know, it's not just like a, you know, whereas Yuri is just sort of locked into it and then was offered food and kind of went along with it. Whereas this character's, you know, 17 or whatever she is. I don't know what age she is, but she makes a conscious choice to leave her parents. And I think thematically what she's done ties into the plot a lot. I just don't know if her actual arc of the movie really does much with everything else.
No, I agree. Thematically, I see it. It just doesn't feel like there's a lot when you're watching it. It feels very separate, unlike the others.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So I think we'll give the spoiler warning then, so we can dive into kind of what the rest of the movie does with its characters and its plot. So full spoilers for the movie as follows. Before I go into spoilers though, I will just remind you that you can support everything we do over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. You can do that over there for as little as $1 per month. At the $5 tier you get early access to these reviews, but you also at the $1 tier get bonus episodes of some of the other shows we do, and you get some bonus like outtakes and things like that. So worth going and having a look if you want to support everything we do and keep all the content coming. But yeah, so looking at the rest of the movie, the arcs here, of course, is the real thing it comes into is the morality of Shota, the young boy who basically, you know, he's told, you know, from the parents over the course of the dead, you know, the dad especially, like, hey, it's not stealing if it's from a store, no one owns it yet. Which again, like, it's just a screwed up way of thinking of things. But like that's how like he justifies it to him, to Shota, because Shota at least thinks, well, we're not stealing from a person. He has a problem with that. And as the movie goes on, there's a scene where he's teaching Yuri, like, the little girl, and she has like 3 names over the course of the film because they realize they got it wrong and then they change it to something else. So I'm just going to stick with Yuri because it was the first one, and we're going to stick with that. But she's been taught how to steal, and this shop owner kind of, you don't even realize that he's caught them at first. He just kind of comes over and says, hey, he hands them some like ice lollies or popsicles to translate for everyone else, and you think he's just being nice, and he just says to him before they leave, he's like, hey, don't make her do it. You know, clearly showing that he knows what they were doing, and he's being a good person and saying, hey, like, don't do that. And this idea that Shota then feels that he's actually badly influences someone else, and then it kind of makes him rethink about what he's been taught and why he's been taught these things, and it kind of culminates with this scene where Osamu, he's breaking into a car to like steal a purse, I think is what he's doing, and Shota's like, well, so this belongs to someone. This is someone's car. This is someone's purse, and he's like, and. And he's like, no, but the rules were simple. The rules were clear. The morals of this, and he refuses to like help him, and he just walks away.
It's like you just be lookout then.
Yeah, and we find out that they found him in a locked car, and he questions, "Oh, were you just breaking into that car as well when you found me?" And he says no, but like you get the impression they probably were.
It's one of those where they might have been breaking into cars in general.
Sure,
but as we saw with Yuri, you know, he stopped and did the right thing because it's like, hey, this is an abandoned kid, and you know, we invited her in for food, and you know, and took her in that way. I wonder if the same happened here, where they were out looking for things to steal in cars, and maybe they were in a car park, and then hey, there's this kid just there, and I suspect he made a conscious choice to break into that car to get the kid rather than you know, to look for anything else. I mean, he might have looked while he was there. Don't get me wrong. But I'll give him the benefit of the doubt in that he probably did do it on purpose.
Yeah, that's fair. But of course, like this, we get this scene where again they're in a shop and Yuri's, you know, doing her first kind of big real shoplifting sort of job, and he basically just can't let her go through with it. He doesn't want her to get caught and go down this path, so he causes a ruckus and grabs some stuff and just runs. You know, in plain sight, he's intentionally distracting everyone and making them chase him. And it's actually one of the best moments of filmmaking in the whole movie, I thought, where he gets like basically cornered on a bridge from the two employees of the store. And he sort of, we don't know what's on the other side of this bridge. We don't know how far down it is. We don't know if it's water. We don't know if it's whatever it is. And he just goes over the ledge, and then the camera kind of comes up just enough to see some of the road below, and it's like, okay, it is like a drop to like a road underneath. It's not like the biggest drop in the world, but all we see
to a small child, It's quite a big drop.
Possibly, yeah. But all we see is the thing he stole was a bag of oranges. And when the camera comes up, we just see some oranges rolling down the road. And actually, like I thought he was dead. Like I thought he'd snuffed it, and turns out he broke his leg. He's not actually dead.
Yeah,
but
it's not terrible. It's a broken leg. He'll be fine.
But that's all brings into the whole idea that he goes to the hospital, and the parents have to come and like find out what happened to him. But the police want to question them and ask like who they are and who he is and what's going on. And it's very soon after this to get caught, because I mean, it's a while in the movie before this happens, but eventually the police are looking for Yuri, and it's on the news. So they cut her hair, they make her look a little bit different, and you know,
it's one of those things where it's kind of sad how long it did take. You kind of question, is this them just not seeing the news because they're not always watching TV, or is it kind of took that long to trickle out because the parents just didn't give enough of a shit?
Well, I think it reminds me a lot of Gone Baby Gone in a way. I don't know if you saw that movie.
I don't think I did.
Yeah, where I didn't love the film, but one of the things it did was like, you know, these detectives or PIs throughout the course of the film were trying to get this kid back, and one of the things that were raised is that the parents of the kid who went missing were awful people, and it was a horrible place for the kid to grow up in, and the people who took the kid were, you know, better, right? And there's a moment at the end of the movie where like, and mild spoilers I guess, but you know, they get the kid back, and like there's a moment where like, the main detective, or you know, maybe Ben Affleck or whoever, but they're kind of like watching the kid with their parents, and there's just kind of this look of like, well, I did my job, but
was it the right thing?
But was it the right thing to do? Yeah, like he's not really sure, and there's kind of a hint of that in here as well. I think for Yuri at the end of the movie, because the very final scene of the movie is her back on the same porch that she was when we first met her.
Which, yeah, again, like I say, technically it's the right thing. She's back with her family, right? But was she better off, you know, with the new family? Probably.
Well, I don't know, because of where they've all ended up now. I don't know if that's necessarily true.
Okay, where was she better off if nothing had changed, if they just continued as they were, if they hadn't been caught and all that? Yeah, that is what I mean there. Yeah,
because it ends in this kind of ambiguous note where she looks over the railing, because it's kind of a high, like, sort of banister. It's all kind of covered, and she's kind of peeking over the edge, and her eyes kind of widen, and then it cuts to credits, so you don't really know what she's seeing. We can maybe speculate a little bit as to did Osamu, I keep forgetting the name, sorry, it's hard with foreign names. Osamu, like, did he come for her to run off, because his character arc for the movie is definitely a complex one. Him and the wife, because it turns out they did something really dark. They actually murdered someone in the past. They murdered her first husband. He was abusive, which is maybe why she sympathizes with young Yuri as much as she does, right away.
She's been through it.
And they take her in, and over the course, we see them kind of have these romantic moments together. We see them kind of bond, and
it's interesting because they're off and on with the romantic moments, because I can't remember which one of the kids. It might be Shota, but one of them say, "Hey, when do you two have time together? Because there's no space for themselves in this apartment."
They find some time eventually though, because everyone's out and they're
in the pouring rain.
Yes, and they're having noodles, and apparently sucking on noodles gets someone very erotic. Get in the mood.
Apparently, yeah.
They're just sucking on noodles for ages, and then I was like, you know what, it's time for sex, and I'm like, okay, she's in the mood.
It actually becomes one of the most stylistic moments of the episode with all the rain pouring. It's got some of the most mood and atmosphere that a lot of the movie not is lacking, but it's just so different to most of the movie that it stands out.
Yeah, and then one of the big things, of course, is that the grandmother is actually, she doesn't have a pension. She claims to have a pension. She's actually just extorting money with via pity from the adult children of her husband's second marriage, because she basically she's getting pity from this pair for being abandoned by her husband, and they pay her off, and that's her quote unquote pension. But she basically makes a lot of points throughout the film where she thinks she's going to be dying soon. There's a lot of I'm at the end of my journey kind of thing. And they all go to the beach. This is one of the happy moments we're talking about, where they go to the beach because Yuri never be at the beach. So they have this happy family day out at the beach. And it's this happy, tranquil day. They're playing in the water. They're sitting on the beach. And she's just kind of saying, hey, I get to die with people around me. I don't have to be alone. And it comes back to this idea of like family being something you want around you, regardless if it's your real like by blood family or whatever. And she does pass away, and we get this really dark thing where they can't go to the authorities because they don't want to A, pay for the funeral because they can't afford to, and B, obviously don't want the authorities sort of poking around and asking them questions. They're not supposed to be here. And
they're telling the kids she was never here. She never lived here.
Yeah,
this idea that you gotta pretend she just didn't exist.
And they dig up a hole inside the house and bury her in there, and it's just really, and they sort of have this little, there's like one line here that really made me go, wait, what? Where they say, oh, it's not like the last time we did this, and I'm like, hold on, let's rewind a little bit. And of course, it's later, once they've been arrested, we find out that they killed someone, and that's what it is. But like, yeah, so they have this thing where once Shota's been like in the hospital, he's had his leg broken, and they realise that they're going to be sniffing around. They do a runner. They're going to leave him behind. They're going to run. And this is something Shota, after he's put into an orphanage, he meets up with Osamu for the day, where they go and visit Nabil in prison. She's in jail, and she again feels guilty. She tells him what car they got him from and what the license plate was in case he wants to try and find his real parents. And later, he goes back home with Osamu, and they have again more noodles. A lot of noodle eating in this movie. I hope you like noodles, because there's noodles all over the place.
I'm not gonna lie, it did make me pretty hungry.
I feel like when you watch a Japanese movie, they're either always eating noodles or rice, right? And I'm much more of a rice guy, so this movie didn't necessarily make me that hungry.
I'm perfectly content with either.
That's fair.
I will take whatever you can give me.
See, whenever I'm watching like Seven Samurai and they're just eating like rice constantly out of little bowls, and I'm like, I can go for some rice. So he's like, hey, you have to go back tomorrow. They build a snowman again. This happy moment, this sort of like last hurrah of them as like father son. And it's like, we're going to build a snowman because it's snowing, and it was real snow as well. So I mean, they timed the shooting of this as best they could to make sure they had some real snow. And the line, back to back, because again he's got this tiny apartment now after this, and he's Shota asks like, were you going to leave me? And he's like, yeah, I'm sorry, but we had to go. And it's this really bittersweet thing. Next morning, it's like, okay, they're going to be mad, so tell them that I forced you to stay with me overnight, so the orphanage won't be mad at you. And he's putting them on a bus, and he's trying to wave bye to him, because Sho gets on the bus, and he's sitting there, quite far up it, and he goes to the window where he is, and he's like waving at him. And as the bus starts to take off, he starts yelling his name and running after the bus, Shota. He's clearly having second thoughts here. It's almost like he wants them to just go with him, and they can be who they were before. Like, he wants that connection. And I think that's where the ambiguity of the ending comes in, where did he go to Yuri because he wants that relationship? But it's kind of the selfish thing, because it's like, yeah, if you make her like you, you're kind of like setting her on this path to be like you.
I think it's interesting, because obviously Shota's quite hurt by the fact that we're going to leave him, and he's kind of accepting, okay, he's going back to the orphanage, but when he's on the bus after it pulls away, he calls him dad for the first time in the whole movie. Yeah, no,
it kind of shows that despite all the faults and everything, and the fact that it was unhealthy and he can't stay there, he does have to have, because again, if Shota stayed with them, his future would be written in stone. He would basically be committing himself to a path of this lifestyle, whereas in school and orphanage he can learn things, he can get an education, he can go and do whatever he wants. He has so many more doors open to him. So the selfish part of this is the idea that Osamu will kind of essentially commit any kids he takes under his wing to be like him, and that's kind of the sad part of this. But I think him calling him dad for the first time, Shota calling him dad here under his breath, when he can't hear him, is basically saying that despite all of that, there was a real connection there was a real family bond there. And there's nuance here. It's not just simple as they're awful people and everything about this is bad. There's definitely some happier,
as
healthier even connections in there that they didn't have before.
As selfish as it is, and if he does go back for it, he's probably aware that he's committed them to this life. But I don't think he's seeing that as a punishment to them. He doesn't think he's doing something wrong there. He thinks he's genuinely doing something good in taking them from a worse situation. He thinks they're better with him, and will be happier. And I mean, it's debatable whether or not that's true. Short term, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Long term, who knows? But it's not just he's trying to ruin their lives. It's not anything like that. It's not trying to go, I need more people like me. It's he thinks he's doing the right thing, I think, in the moment.
No, he thinks he is, but that's I think part of what makes it kind of dangerous is that he thinks he is, and ultimately he isn't. He's kind of, and so it is this weird ending where you don't know how to feel. Like, do you want to hope that he did come for her, or are you hoping that he didn't because she needs to maybe not be that? But
I think the healthiest option that it could be at the end is it's actually Shota there to just carry on being like the big brother figure.
Oh yeah.
But it has a lot more morality, shall we say? Is a lot more concerned about doing the right thing.
Yeah, he's a better person than the parents were. Like, that's kind of set up throughout the film, is that he has more of a conscience. Yeah. And yeah, that is kind of the happiest ending, I suppose, if you think about it.
Not saying that's necessarily what I think happened. Just it's a potential option that it's probably probably the happiest one.
I think what makes it all work though is that if he has had a moment of weakness and came for her, Osamu that is, it's an understandable moment of weakness, an understandable desire on his part to not be alone, to feel like he is actually helping someone and someone is there to help him.
Yeah.
Everything about it is like, okay, there's selfish elements, there's definitely elements of like just unhealthy attitudes towards life and relationships.
Codependence.
But ultimately, like, you can kind of sympathize with a lot of it because you understand. It makes all of it very kind of subjectively understandable. Yes. Even though from an objective point of view, you look at it and go, no, this is bad for this reason, and this reason. You get why it's kind of working, at least in the moment. You don't hate the characters for it. You feel kind of sad they're making the wrong choice potentially in the moment. You're like, oh, I hope you were going to do the right thing, and you didn't really quite do it. But you didn't murder a puppy, so I'm not going to hate you either. Like,
and it's one of those things that in the moment they are all, for the most part, very happy. All of them together.
Yeah.
Despite everything.
Yeah, they found some sort of weird semblance of happiness mixed in, more than some real families have. Like, that's just the simple truth of it. I mean, that's why Yuri happily went with them and didn't really want to go back, because
exactly.
And it's because it's something they asked her a lot. Like, when the first like period of her being there, they would say, "Do you want to go back? Do you want to go home?" And she never seemed that enthusiastic about it.
Yeah, they always gave her the choice, consistently.
And of course, no one has to explain to us that, yes, a 5-year-old should not be making that choice. That's true. But
no, but again, it's them thinking that if she wants to go home, she'll say so.
Yeah. So, no, I think that's what makes the whole thing work, is that the morality of it, while kind of clear on the surface, there's a lot of subjective elements to it that make it a bit more nuanced and make you understand why characters who would do this think this way, and why they think it's the right thing to do, and why they get something out of it when they do go through life like this. So that's what makes it good. That's what makes it a good drama, is that there's so much depth to what everyone's doing and why they're doing it. And that's what makes it work. Direction's very solid. It's very laid back.
Rarely flashy or stand out. I think the 2 points where it does stand out are the sex scene with all the rain and the chase.
Yeah, but very confident. It never feels like it's struggling for something to do. It's just being very. It's fitting the tone of the characters. It's like this movie would not benefit from a flashy like style.
No, it wouldn't. It's very relaxed. But again, for most of the movie, most of the characters are quite relaxed.
Yeah, it fits what the characters do. It fits what the story's doing. And that's sometimes the most important thing. So, I can't really fault that. Like I say, I mean, I think the performances are very good. You've got some kid actors here, and admittedly not speaking Japanese. Maybe some of the if there is faults in the delivery of the lines, it's maybe not easy to see them. But I think from a visual perspective, the performances are very good. Like you can see in their eyes what they're thinking, what they're doing a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think especially the kid play show a lot of kind of drawing in the shoulders, kind of feeling smaller.
Yeah.
A lot of that.
Yeah, no, so that's very good. Yeah, no, it's a really good. I get why it had a lot of buzz last year. It's a really solid, and despite its subject, surprisingly easy to watch. Like I feel like this is the sort of thing if you tell me the premise before I watched it, I'd probably be like, oh, it's just going to be a depressing, like moody, like
yeah,
like everyone's
it's very complacent. Maybe is a word I'd describe it as. Like, it just kind of goes through the motions for a lot of it in a way that makes sense for the story.
Yeah. So, what are you going to give it then? What are you going to give Shoplifters?
I think I'll give it a straight 8. Yeah.
Okay. I was expecting you to explain it more, so I had time to think about my rating. But
I mean, if you want, I can.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'll have to do my thought process first. So, no, it's just it's hard to fault. There's very little to fault. Like you said, maybe a little bit of pacing. Maybe Aki's story, which ultimately she connects with one of her customers at one point. She kind of like felt, and again, it's this idea that this is kind of a broken individual, and they kind of like bond and connect because they're both kind of alone, and it kind of just goes out of the themes of the rest of the movie. But maybe her story could be trimmed, because it doesn't really add a whole lot to the film. Like you could probably take her out, and it wouldn't necessarily feel like it impacts it that much. Outside of cutting out maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10. That push. Maybe it'll be 5 though. To be honest, like if you think of the scenes that it's really just her stuff on her own, it's probably just 5 minutes.
Probably, yeah. It's not a huge amount, but noticeable, I think.
Yeah. But very likable characters, in spite of everything, and very natural performances, very natural kind of tone of the film. But ultimately, it's saying something with a bit more nuance than just a simple "this is right and this is wrong," which I do appreciate. It makes you feel like it's really, because there's a moment just before it cuts forward to when Shota's in the orphanage and in prison and so on and so on, where Nobuo was being questioned by the police officer, and she has this thing at the end of the scene where the shot's very kind of like just very, she's dead center, which is kind of irregular. Maybe that's another maybe slightly stylish thing in the filmmaking towards the end, is that in some of these interviews the characters being interviewed are very dead center of the frame, but she ends her scene, this long scene with this detective, by just saying "I wonder," and then pausing for a long time and then saying "I wonder," and I think that almost sums up kind of the point of the movie as a whole. It's about to just kind of question these things and wonder about them, as opposed to
and kind of what if.
Yeah, definitively say what's right and what's wrong. Yeah. So,
I will give this movie credit.
Mm-hmm.
I found this very easy to remember, given how long ago I actually watched it at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Because I watched this when we were supposed to record this originally, about 5 weeks ago now. And then shit happened, and I went away, and it didn't get done. And I was concerned coming into this review, going, "Oh, am I going to be kind of all over the place? Am I not going to remember enough of it?" But actually, a lot of the even the smaller moments, have kind of stuck in my head quite well. Not just the bigger moments, because it is a lot of small moments in this movie. So I'm glad that a lot of them have been so easily memorable.
Yeah, it's kind of by design.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I wasn't sure if they would be that memorable when I came to talk about it, and it turns out they were.
Yeah, so I'm probably going to agree with straight 8, which was
after all that,
which is a long way to get there. But like, I was trying to think if I wanted to go higher. It might go up in time though. It might, it's the sort of thing where maybe I could rewatch it, because it does look like it feels like it has enough going on inside its head to really kind of like maybe even get more out of it in a second view. When from the start of the movie, I know where it's going with its themes, and I can kind of
Is there some stuff early on that you kind of miss?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there was. But that is Shoplifters. So you can let us know what you think of the film in the comments. You can like and subscribe, all that stuff. We'll hopefully be back next week with another episode. I said that last time, of course, but hey. The gap between A Night to Remember and the movie before that was like 4 months, so we're speeding up.
Like a month and a half.
We're speeding up, right? So worst case scenario, the next one will be 3 weeks time, but hopefully next week. So we got more Patreon vote winners to work through before we even get to anything else that we start picking ourselves. So we'll have the next one of those next week. Maybe a Hitchcock movie next week. If that's not next week, it's the week after. But that's what's coming up. So let us know what you think of the movie in the comments. Like, subscribe. Guys on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show and the podcast and everything we do, you can rate us on Apple Podcasts, whatever podcast app you choose. Give us 5 stars. Helps us out a lot. People can find us easier. They recommend us out a lot more. And we mentioned Patreon earlier. If you want to support us financially, you can go do that there too and get some bonuses for your trouble. But that is us. And of course, well worth mentioning the other 2 movie podcasts that come from MailFuzz TV. There's a horror movie podcast called Screams After Midnight that I do with Tim. Every week we talk about a horror movie. And we just had the Octoberthon over October, which was like 32 episodes in 31 days.
Which was a large part of the reason why this has taken so long. Because as I said, I watched this at the start of October, and then Peter had a lot more movies to watch in October, though.
I had a lot of movies to watch. And then we have the science fiction movie podcast called The Atomic Cinema Experiment, The Ace, which I do with Tara, and similar to Screams, but it's a sci-fi movie every week, so you can check out that. And yeah, on Patreon, you get bonus episodes once per month for both of those shows, so go and have a look-see. But that is it, so thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching movies, guys, and if you can get it, it's always nice to have diplomatic immunity.